Burton and I'm an aeromodeller and an engineer. Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale aeromodelling. Well, welcome back to the channel. Just going to show you a little bit I've done on the rear end of the fuselage. This is a tail cone section, and I've spent a lot of time, as is always the way with scale modelling, especially if you don't follow the plan, where you end up thinking about things a lot before you actually do anything. And something that only takes 10 minutes, but it actually takes 2 hours of thought to figure out how the heck you're going to do it. Anyway, so what I've come up with is this. The tailplane is removable, and you can see here that there's a single bolt that holds the tailplane down, and you access it by swinging the rudder across, and then you can get your driver down through there. There's two dowels in the leading edge of the tailplane. These slot in and retain the front and keep it all aligned. Then at the rear, this section here, there is a lower and an upper, and it is in line with the tailplane. So the top bit is this is glued to the tailplane and comes off with it. There is a demarcation line right at the back here, so I've put a panel on here, and then the end of the panel is accurate to a scale line on the full size. And then what I've done is I've then built up the underside, as you'll see in a moment, with blue foam blocks, and I'm going to carve those. I'll do a video on that. So what will happen is, once that's all carved, I will cut along this line here, and that'll make the whole lower section removable and detachable, and that'll give me access to the connections to the elevator horns, which are underneath. The thing is, as you fit the tailplane, then you've got to reconnect the elevators, and then you've got to fit this tail cone section, underside section. So that's what we're doing next. We're going to form this foam, and then I'll glass it, and then I'll possibly either make a mould off of it, or, which is very likely, I'll try and make a mould from it, or I'll just take it off, hollow it all out, and then refit it, as I don't really need to make a mould for future models. It's just for this one-off model. So I might just glass the foam and do it that way. It'll be fairly light. So that's what this video is going to be about, is making this tail cone section. There's still some work to do through here. I've got to build a section in here. And first of all, I'll build a lithoplate base that comes out, and it overlaps this section, and it goes over this raised tube part, and then it's curved, and then we'll put foam on top of that to build up the gap to the bottom of the rudder, and then we'll shape that, and that probably will just be glassed in situ and be left exactly as it is. Where the raised section is, there'll be a hole that goes right down through the section to get to the head of the bolt, and as I said, the rudder, you just swing it out of the way to access the screw, and when the rudder's in a central position for judging and what have you, or you won't even see the hole that's in the top of the coaming there. So that's what we're going to do. This section was made in just an almost flat lithoplate panel. It does actually bow down slightly on either side and towards the back, but it's more or less flat. The tube section was formed by using my dapping tools and the dapping blocks to force a curve into it and then flatten it all out. Then this section here, this raised funny section, which is possibly a little bit undersized, it may need to be slightly bigger, but it'll do for this model, I think. This was made by forming lithoplate into a dished shape hole or a channel using a round dapping tool. So the rivets are all in the scale positions. There's the right number. Apart from down this one side, I'm one rivet short, so don't tell the judges. So, as you can see, I've sort of shaped this blue foam to fill the voids, the gap where the tail wheel will be and the tail cone section. And what I intend to do is I'm going to cover all of this blue foam, plus down the sides here, all of this in parcel tape. And the beauty of the brown parcel tape is that fiberglass won't stick to it. So once I've covered all that in fiberglass tape, and probably the elevators to keep them clean and keep them safe, then I'll put a layer of glass fibre on, 2 or 3 layers of glass fibre in fact, and then hope to goodness that I can pop it off, and then I can mould inside of that to create a cover that will go on here, and then I can cut most of this back off again. But it's going to have to slip over the top and go right to here, because the joint has to be here and right at the back here, and then it'll join right along the seam between the rib and the bottom. That's the plan. So I'm just going to sand down a bit more and get the finish even better before I look at how I'm going to do this fillet along here. So as you can see, I've opted to add some fillets in here on either side, and these are just attached using Yoo-hoo pawl, because they're not structural, they're simply cosmetic, and if I use them to make a mould, then they'll come off anyway, but if I glass over the top, then they're safe underneath anyway. So there's 2 ways of looking at this. The easy way is to sand this to shape and then just glass all this with a lightweight glass cloth, and then cut open the area that I need for here, and then maybe make this bit removable. There's lots of different ways of doing this, but I do need to make sure this bit comes off, because I have to get in there to play around with the elevator push rods. Okay, so we'll keep going. I'm still forming the shape, and my brain is still thinking over which direction I'm actually going to go. All right. Reality should have been like a triangular section, so along the sand would be done forward. But I didn't. With hindsight, it's really careful. It was so soft. You can see what we're trying to achieve, and then we finally end up with these little foam pads. I tend to fold it in half and then use the fold to do the work. And I think that will do us for that. So we'll do the other side, which you won't be able to see, it'll be off camera. I'll do the other side and then have a think as to where we're going from there. A lot of thinking going on here, not a lot of doing. See you in a minute. Well, I'm going to fill in these obvious gaps, and I'm going to use a filler, and this is my favourite filler at the moment. It's Red Devil One Time, and it's a lightweight filler. There are several that you can get. If you pick them up on the shelf in the hardware store and they feel like they're empty, then that's the one to get. So as you can see, this stuff is it's a bit dried out, to be honest, but it's not dried out. It is just how it is. But, so we'll pop some into these gaps. If we can. Oops, too much on the spatula there. So even though it seems like it's too dry to do anything, it isn't. Works just fine. Now the beauty of this, as opposed to a 2-pack polyester-based filler, is this is very light and it's very, very easy to sand. So unlike a polyester-based filler or a car filler, auto filler type stuff, 2-pack, where it's much harder than the surrounding material, that makes it very difficult to sand. Whereas this, the filler is virtually the same to sand as the foam, very, very similar. So the way I tend to look at it is if the surface is just pure balsa, then this is the stuff. However, if the surface has been glassed, then to keep the strength of the surface equal between the filler and the surface, then I would use a polyester, a sort of a Bondo type filler. I'm just doing this a little section of balsa over here that will need to be filled before it gets glassed. I like to fill the balsa before I do any glassing, and then once I've done the glassing, then I have to fill with a harder filler, and that's not going to fill, I'm pretty sure of it. It's flexing too much. I think that's going to be, just have to accept that for what it is. Right, we'll let that go off. It only takes 10 minutes, and then we'll just gently true it up. It's just to get it level, really. So that's a 48 gram cloth with with obviously resined on, and I've just put it over parcel tape. Now the parcel tape has not gone down very well. It's gone down with a few wrinkles. I've tried to do it in strips so that it would cover reasonably well, but there are still overlaps and wrinkles, which I'm not happy about. But what that should mean is that the part that I pull out of this afterwards will be thicker in places where the wrinkles are, and I can sand that away. So the part I pull from this won't be a finished part; it will just be a part, and then I can sand it. So I'm not too worried about the state of the parcel tape underneath. If this doesn't work, I can always try again with another idea. It's nothing's permanent. Okay, so I'm going to put another layer of cloth on there on top of that, because this is the mould, and therefore it needs to be fairly rigid. And as you can see, I've got a fair bit left in the pot, so I may as well put more glass on there. They certainly do, and Brighton is the next match for them at St James's Park, followed by Leicester at home, Jermaine, and then Chelsea, their final 3 games. I think today was a good point for Newcastle. Coming to a place where just got really sort of be a bit instead of what do you 6 points out of those 3 games? Do they have a 200% guarantee? Yeah, I think the game that we're normal. It's also a guarantee. That's a James's Park with game guarantee you Champions football. I do not see that really close. At Chelsea, just they. Can you slip with slipping up at the area for those fixtures? So, to go through the season up here, lots of changes, loads of stuff, and then examples of the passes he's had. And so, effectively, and Gary was saying, they just can't get the last end of the season here against Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham possibly nothing to play for. It's basically electric, and they really go their team yesterday. It's tight, but you have to say Southampton are dominant. Two, they need the other 4. It wants them to be alive. It's proven to be fight. So there we go. I ended up putting 3 coats or 3 layers of the 48 gram cloth on there. It won't do any harm to have that added thickness because this is the mould. I wasn't intending to use this as the finished piece, although we'll see how it all goes. But the piece I actually want has got to be a little bit smaller than this because this is the outside surface, and I actually want what's going to be the finished thing the same size as what's underneath. So this has to come off, and then I mould on the inside of it. What is worrying me is those little marks that are in the brown parcel tape will transfer to the mould, and that's okay. I can pull this off and it'll be okay. But when I actually make the final part inside that mould that has all those marks in it, it may not release very well. So I am a little bit concerned about that. So this whole exercise may actually fall flat on my face here, but we'll see. If you don't try these things, you don't learn, do you? So and I'm all for trying stuff and learning. So we'll see what happens. That's probably going to be left now to dry. I'm flying in a competition tomorrow, so I will leave this until Monday, I think. 2 days. All right, that's it for now. Come back on the next one and we'll see how that comes off.